Okay, all good to go.
All right, Joel. All right, dumb question to start with. Do you support Republican, Democrat, or Independent?
Um, I mean, I definitely support Democrats right now. I'm not really tied to parties though as a construct.
Okay. Well, one of the biggest questions I want to hit you with is, what's your opinion on gun control? I know that's not mainly your stream tonight, but
I would say there's one thing that Trump did which I don't like, which is the federal government with red flag laws. I think he said he likes red flag laws because you don't need to, if someone is considered dangerous, you don't need to worry about any courts. You can just take their guns instantly. I don't like anything that violates due process, where you can have an accusation or the government has a reason to just go like detain you. That's why I'm against a lot of the stuff with the immigrants right now, with like innocent people not being given due process and getting mixed up with gang members, and that's a big issue to me. But also with gun rights, I don't like the idea that the government can just say like, hey, we think you're a terrorist and take the guns without due process of some kind. And also, obviously, if there's a report about you, the law enforcement can keep an eye on you to see if you're okay, like a wellness check. But if someone's really that bad, in my opinion, where you need to take their guns, you would just probably lock them up. If they're that bad where you need to take their guns without due process, you probably should just like, I don't know, detain that person if they're that much of a threat to people. Um,
okay.
but it should be a
So
really
you
high
pretty much
bar.
believe,
So I'm against that. But I'm for like basic background checks. I would not be for like an assault weapons ban. I think the categorization gets a little bit too wonky there. But I think most Americans agree with just like background checks to make sure like domestic abusers and criminals can't just like legally buy guns. But also any something that makes sure we don't like take away the right for innocent people to own guns.
okay, so you're pretty much a full-blown Second Amendment follower, the right to bear arms with the words of no infringement. I come from a state where we need to have a license and this and that. Technically, it's an infringement. I come from one of the worst states as well, where we're not allowed to have a lot of stuff.
I'm pro permit. I'm pro permit for concealed carry, and I'm also against open
I'm
carry.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine with doing that process. It's easy enough at the end of the day. But they took away so many of our guns, we're not allowed to have them. All right, then. So moving on from that, uh, I was hearing the whole tariff thing against China. So the fact that yes, they are putting the tariffs on China and whatnot. I actually just spent a weekend with a bunch of companies that deal with China. They don't like the idea of it. These companies, and I'm a small business owner. It pushes back on me. But one of my biggest things is I do want to see all these companies get out of the U.S. What would be the best way of getting, or out of China? How do we get them out of China the best way?
So one of our strategies was building relationships with like Vietnam and India. So there's better countries to export from. That's
Or
not one of our big
actually, I'm
adversaries.
sorry. I'd rather have the companies manufacturing products in the U.S. where it's U.S. made and it's home base.
So if you want to do that, you need to pick industries and pass an actual law through Congress that gave like a subsidy or a tax credit if you build here to make the moving costs easier for businesses. You would also need to have a very low tariff, so 5 or 10% on the goods coming in, because if you tariff too much in these countries, then the input costs for the supplies you need to build factories and build our capacity are going to be too high, which is why we actually lose manufacturing jobs if we have high tariffs, because businesses don't want to absorb the costs. They do layoffs. So you need long term uh, policy passed through Congress, because a company, when they're making a 10-year plan or a five-year plan, which if you move a factory, it takes like 5 years. If you move an entire supply chain, it takes 10 years. You need a long term plan for this stuff. Right now, all Trump is doing is burning. Like Trump right now is just killing the economy for zero reason. And companies are not going to make a decision off an executive power where Trump can take it on and off every day based off if he's having his time in a month or not.
So a couple of the so when I was out over the weekend, I spoke to a lot of these people. I was with thousands of people. A lot of them did say that Trump's kind of pushed to devalue the dollar. I'm a Trump supporter. All with these other guys that are mainly Trump supporters, they feel like he's trying to devalue the dollar to drop the um, national debt. But then on the other side that I look at it too is yes, the long term plan that you just said is Trump's trying to reverse all these long term plans that these other presidents that put into place because of the fact of like these carbon tax issues. I don't know if you saw the EPA had released that they want to lighten up on the restrictions that we have going on, where these like China and India, Vietnam don't have these restrictions, that we don't have to deal with these emissions.
Well, the issue with you need to pick, like I said before, you need to pick industries you want to move back to America. Like these supply chains take, like I said, 5, 10, 15 years to move. So you need policy. Do you know what I mean when I say that? Like why policy passed through Congress would be more favorable than just like an executive order by the president?
Correct. Then that's where I brought up the whole EPA thing with the whole carbon issues. Is they put so much restrictions on what we can do in the states with like how much carbon we can produce. Where out in like these, I don't want to say third world countries, but the countries like India and China and Vietnam, where they don't care about what their carbon productions are. We have so much of so much of restriction on our emissions that we can't do certain things that they're doing, like boat dismantling. We can't do that here.
We could do that, but the issue is they can pay slave wages or really low wages in these countries, and also the resources come easier for, especially like semiconductors, for China and Taiwan, which is why we work to import those things. So that's a really complicated issue. And for business costs, I mean, unless if you're like in gas or oil or mining directly, and you can make like waivers if you have a wartime effort to increase like, I don't know, lithium mining or some rare earth minerals. But for any company, I mean, environmental costs, even if they were high, is around 1%, 2%, 3% of your total costs. So I don't see how like adjusting EPA standards would do anything except just give,
But
pretty greedy people exemptions when they don't really need them. Like I'm talking about the overall industrial policy that Trump is doing with the tariffs. It's just like, it's suicide what Trump wants to do.
yeah, he's rushing into it too much. But you look at these companies that are doing the refining costs, 2% a lot for them. They'd rather ship it out of the country to save 1.5% or 1%. When they're almost when it's $1 trillion company, what's that? $100 million, or is that a billion? That's $1 billion.
I'm just saying, China has the ability to use their authoritarian dictatorship to section out areas of their country that'll be perfectly designed for different industry. It's not like right now in America where there's permits or like zoning or properties you need to buy. China, they could do whatever they need to do. They press a button, things happen in their country. It's a dictatorship. There's one big benefit they have. Their infrastructure is much better than ours, which makes it easier for them to ship globally. They're connected to a lot more formats for shipping. They own like 99% of the world's boats. That's a thing as well. So there's a bunch of things you need to do in a very precise manner. And like the big thing, oh god, it's hard to have this conversation because like what Trump is doing with the tariffs is so asinine and insane. It'll give us a literal Great Depression if he keeps them. I don't think he will because of that, but I don't know.
So do you know why China owns the majority of the boats in the boating industry or the shipping industry?
They do it cheaper.
So it's the wage laws. If it's based out of the United States have to pay an X amount of wage laws. It's the per day and per hour and everything.
They also
like
use government spending though. They use government spending to do all of this. They can just direct, like I said before, in America we have to work through Congress and hope that private industries invest in certain areas. So like if it's not profitable for a private company to do it, we have to have our government subsidize things. But Americans will crash out if you try to subsidize something or use a government plan to put something in action. But that's really why China has a better shipping fleet. We'd have to focus on that as a national initiative using taxpayer dollars to focus on it.
But so if you're an American and you go and you actually get onto one of these big moving ships, right? You get paid American wages, with not an issue. But so now if it's based out of the U.S., they have to meet those wages, and that's no problem for the company that owns them. But it's the taxes they have to pay on it, and I believe it's a huge insurance thing. I forget it off the top of my head right now. I've been out of the maritime industry for quite a little while, But so, especially if you ever get a chance, look into cruise ships. There's only one cruise ship or two cruise ships that are based out
Yeah,
of the
but there's a
United
reason
States.
we have. But the issue is with China. These are government-owned companies. These are government-owned. Like if we put our
Yeah,
military towards making
I
shipping boats, we could have the same exact thing. But they have government-owned systems to do this, and like what Trump is doing right now is killing the U.S. economy for zero reason. That's the big point about this entire thing. He's hurting us for zero reason.
well, he's trying to kill the national debt.
No, he's not. There's no way to do that. Like
We yes,
whatever you were
we
told
pay the
is not
tariffs, but
possible.
he's trying to devalue the bill. We're paying the tariffs, but the government's receiving the tariffs, and now he's trying to devalue the dollar and try to lower the dollar amount, what the dollar's worth, and now he could kill the national debt easier. If you think about it, it'd be faster if he killed how
What
much the
else would
dollar's worth.
happen if like what comes with the U.S. dollar dying? Like what do you think comes with
Oh,
that? Even if
it's
that
the
were
whole world
true.
economy. It's the whole world is affected by it. And now they got to try to pick up another dollar, which is probably moving more towards Bitcoin.
So we're probably like if we devalue the dollar right now, so we probably go into with the collapse our economy would suffer to do that. You have to understand we'd have massive inflation. Our economy would grind to a halt in many areas. Like it would be like we'd get really poor really quick in America. So you can say we could pay off a
So
debt, we could pay off the deficit, but if we make the if we make the overall money supply, if we make the debt worth less, then we're all going to be worth a lot less. And if Trump is going to make the dollar, cost less by killing the economy, the way that would hurt us
so
is insane.
what's been hurting us? Like you look at the overall economy, like these people that can't even get houses. Look at how much what minimum wage has been jumping up to across a lot of these states. So what's California at 20? I want to say it's 20 or 22. I haven't looked in a while, but now look at how much the houses are worth. What's like the economy's been suffering lately.
No, but that is an issue with like housing supply and other things. Devaluing the U.S. dollar to try and lessen the debt would literally kill America. Like we would literally be under Russia as a global superpower if we did that. We would collapse. Like the confidence in the U.S. dollar would be dead. Our military, like everything would collapse. Like that's not a real. I just need to stress. I mean,
I don't want to see it happen at all, but that's what I'm fearing that a little bit.
okay, well, Trump
But
wanted. Then he's killing our country intentionally. Then he's killing our country on purpose. Because that's what that means. Like I don't know.
that's also why I wonder. Like he's supporting the whole cryptocurrency thing heavily, and I wonder if or if he kills it now. If we have major cryptocurrency behind us, that'd be completely wrong. I hope he doesn't do it at all.
Cryptocurrency is fake though. It doesn't mean anything.
Uh, yes, but no.
I mean, 100% yes. I mean, Trump is scamming us with crypto. He's scamming people with crypto. He's doing like dark money deals with crypto. But like, the U.S. dollar is backed by the U.S. military, our trade deals, our people, our economy. Everything about the U.S. backs the U.S. dollar. Crypto and Bitcoin and whatever else is not backed by literally anything. Like, there's no value to these currencies. There's nothing assigned to it, and it just follows the U.S. markets in general.
It could get killed very easily. It could be
real.
overinflated extremely. Well, actually, it's backed because there's only X amount of coins available. If you do think so, there's X amount of blocks available and then X amount of coins available. If you mine once when the blocks end, it's say Bitcoin, there's X amount of blocks.
But there's nothing tying its value to humanity. There's nothing tying its value to material or the military or trade deals or a country.
Governments are paying for the blocks, to my last understanding.
So it's becoming government currency. Why would we throw away our currency in favor of Bitcoin if they're gonna become government currencies?
Well, they were buying it for the numbers that they're mining at. They were mining for prime numbers, last I knew. I don't know what they're mining for. They're just doing mathematical equations. The government was buying them because it had to deal with prime numbers and had to do with security purposes and stuff. Now I'm not too sure about because the blocks are really dwindling. There's still plenty of blocks left, so there's an X amount of currency available, right? So if there's X amount of currency available, and the whole world dealing with that X amount of currency, they can't produce any more blocks to produce more Bitcoin.
What I'm talking about is like right now the U.S. is the world's reserve currency. We have 90% of transactions involving the U.S. dollar. If we encourage crypto and kill the U.S. dollar, we are on the path to America dying again. Like it's just like
Yeah,
Bitcoin and
I
crypto
don't.
is largely a scheme to devalue the American dollar to take us away from being the world's reserve currency. Like it's actually a scheme to make us lose our American dominance. Like that's what crypto actually is holistically. It's a tool for scammers. It's a tool for sex traffickers and drug traffickers. Unironically, it's used for very, very bad things. Like crypto is used
Well,
for terrible
it
things.
was, not as much
It still
anymore.
is.
I
It
don't.
still
Do you,
is. It's
well,
not more regulated now. It's still used for the exact same reasons. Like Trump is scamming people with his crypto coin. He's probably getting paid from Saudi Arabia every time he goes to a golf tournament. So like it just like it's not good.
all right. So now, all right. Now you just use the fact that so Trump went to Saudi Arabia and whatnot, and is pushing for Bitcoin. What's your opinion on what Hunter Biden was doing out in Russia? Or do you think he should have been prosecuted even further from having that iPad there, or the computer and their findings on it?
Um, so nothing implicated Joe Biden. Hunter Biden is a private citizen. Republicans had a chance to bring charges. They could not find anything. One of the whistleblowers from the Burisma situation admit he was lying about it. He was actually connected with Russia. He was convicted for at the federal level, I'm pretty sure, after he admit that he lied. And also, when it comes to government corruption, Donald Trump has done literally probably over 2,000 things his presidency so far in his second term that is more corrupt by a long shot than anything Hunter Biden has ever even touched, and that includes the prostitutes and cocaine.
Yeah. All right. That is completely fair because Hunter wasn't even necessarily involved in the whole government and whatnot. He was just using his father and
Like Jared Kushner,
whatever else.
speaking of Saudis, right? Like Jared Kushner got a $2 billion investment from Trump's Saudi friends after he left the White House. So I think that's a bigger
Who did?
conflict of interest there. Jared Kushner is a Trump son-in-law. $2 billion
Okay.
investment in private equity after never working in private equity. So that's like already like huge. Like, even that one story is bigger than anything Hunter Biden did. And Jared Kushner's
Oh yeah.
dad, Charles Kushner, Trump pardoned him. Charles Kushner was a financial fraudster. He exploited his own brother and sister. I think he set his brother up with a prostitute because his brother was going to testify against him for a fraud case.
So
Um,
I wasn't worried about the whole Hunter Biden with prostitutes and guns and blow or
no, but these
crack or
are
whatever
these are
the
like
fuck.
U.S. Government officials that
But
Trump has pardoned and put in his cabinet.
okay. One of my biggest things, why I brought up the whole Hunter Biden thing, was him going to Russia or these other countries to do business dealings. When Biden was working for Obama, they supposedly found these flights going out to, I want to say it was Russia, and his son was on them, and his son was introducing to these officials. It might have been even China too, but it was supposedly for his own financial gain. Whatever about that, it's been long enough. I'm more worried about our senators and in their own financial gains.
Well, you know that Trump
What
sold
do you?
his truth. He sold his stock before he crashed the market. You know, Trump did. Trump is profiting from Americans dying right now, from the economy crashing. They're short selling it, and they're buying it on the dips, and they're pumping it throughout the day. So like that's another form of corruption to look into. Trump's doing it too. Trump is in the same corrupt
But
money game.
yeah, well, I love Elon Musk. He's done it too. All these huge guys do. Look at what happened with GameStop and AMC with these hedge fund guys that crashed these stocks, but they caught it on Reddit, and they made these hedge fund guys lose millions and billions of dollars. But these hedge fund guys never received um, repercussions from the SEC. But I'm more like I brought up to you. I'm more worried about the senators. How are they worth millions of dollars when they're only receiving 174,000 a year?
How
Do
much
you
money do you think? Do you know AOC?
AOC?
Yeah, Alessandria Ocasio Cortez.
I've heard of it. I don't know what it's worth.
Okay. Or do you know like how much? Who's a senator that you think is worth a lot of money?
Nancy Pelosi, Elizabeth Warren.
How much do you think Warren's worth? Like,
Wasn't she on the Fortune 500 for I could be wrong once again. Might have been 231,000. I know her, but her husband can do free trading.
Um,
She has limitations to her tradings.
well, okay,
It might be
Elizabeth Warren
20.
was
It
a
might be 20
consultant
million.
and she was a lawyer, I'm pretty sure. She was really
Her
really
husband, I know
successful,
her
and her
husband.
husband was too.
Her husband's currently a lawyer, and I want to say Harvard University as
You know
well.
what? I'm sorry, but like Trump right now is openly, for a fact, doing much more corrupt things. And you're talking about Elizabeth Warren, who is like one of the most anti-big money politicians we've had in American history, unironically. In the policies she actually passes. So like they're doing a bad job if they're paying her off or if she's like corrupt or whatever. She's doing a bad job.
Well,
Like
if she's setting
and
these
like
policies and if she's setting policies into the favors of the companies she's invested into,
we know for a fact that
and now her stocks go
Trump
up.
literally, you know, that Trump literally ignored dead American soldiers who were being returned to America for the first time. He ignored their grieving parents to go to a live golf tournament at his own resort with the Saudis to party with them. That same exact night, he abandoned these American soldiers that died to play golf with the Saudis in a tournament he lied about winning. And you're talking about this bullshit. Like, it's pathetic, bro. Like, it's really pathetic. Like, I could tell you like Elon Musk because you have no spine and no direction on what you should give a shit about. Like, it's actually sad.
All right. So now, all right. What about the FEMA thing in the Carolinas?
All the aid was completely approved for the Carolinas.
Not all of it. I was
Yes,
just
it
with one of
was.
the guys that
I don't care if
I
you were
was
with
just with
okay,
someone.
the government, okay, the actual approved funding from Congress, from the executive branch under Biden. Yes, it was 100% approved.
It might have been approved, but he still hasn't seen a dollar out of it. He's
Okay, I'm
another
sorry
small
about your
business owner
one
like
person.
me.
I'm sorry about your one person, but there might be a process for that. I'm not sure what the exact process is along the lines, but as far as the laws that Congress passed, the Republican Congress had a chance to rework those laws. The Republican Congress could have made the FEMA laws different if there was an issue. The Republican Congress did not do that. And Joe Biden followed the law to a T and gave every available form of support that he possibly could get from North Carolina. There was nothing else
All right,
Biden
so
could have done.
I'm not blaming just the Republican process or anything. I'm just asking about the processes or just these major issues. I'm not just directing it to the Republican process. I'm not directing it to the Democratic process. It's just like these things that are just like it's affecting us as citizens. I'm not trying to kill anything. I can tell you're getting quite mad. I just want to some of these things like these bigger issues that we're seeing as citizens that are even reported on heavily.
Well, Trump is literally trying to eliminate FEMA. Like, he's trying to eradicate FEMA.
Yeah. What is he going? Is he going to replace it with something?
No.
Is there any? Is there any? All right. So now with the for instance the whole FEMA thing, what just happened out in California? These wildfires. The insurance companies just cancel them supposedly off of the news reports I see, and FEMA's offering them the same deal.
I mean, there's FEMA, there's initial funding they give to people who are affected, and then there's a longer term process you can apply for. But like Florida has the same issues, so it's a problem with insurance companies and natural disasters and climate change. Like insurance companies are pricing climate change into their plans, and Trump is going to make it 50 times worse. And they're actually going to be moving more insurance away from these areas, including Florida and California, because of Trump not caring about climate change at all.
So hold up. Repeat that one more time. I'm sorry.
In all of these states, whether it's a Republican state, Florida, Louisiana, Texas, California, there's insurance companies leaving these areas and refusing to cover them because of it just they're
The
pricing climate
natural
change
disaster
in.
aspect.
Yeah, and they're pricing
Is it
climate
policy
change in,
changing
and
or
it's like
is it policy changing or because these companies just they're predicting or they don't want to cover those issues?
they don't want to do something that doesn't make sense for their bottom line because it's going to keep getting worse.
So where my house is based, we recently lost flood insurance. We're nowhere near the coastline. This and that. This is a couple of years back. They deemed us into a floodplain. Blah blah blah. It was like 4 houses on our street. The rest of them all in the same grade, whatnot. They all have flood insurance. We don't. We have to pay a premium. It's another $8,000 a year to have that flood insurance. Even though we're
Sure,
at
yeah,
the same.
they're pricing in the climate changing and the weather getting worse. Yeah, because of the climate change that Trump doesn't care about. Also, car insurance is going to be a lot more expensive with the tariffs too. So everyone get ready to pay
The
more for
what?
car insurance. Car insurance will be worse because of the tariffs. So everyone get ready to pay more for car insurance per month, and probably house insurance
I'm
actually.
I'm well past the whole car insurance bullshit, but um, oh,
You're
shoot,
like a
what was
kid.
there?
You're like a middle schooler.
Oh no,
You're just like a fan. You're a fan of things. You're watching sports right now. You don't know one bad like. Do you know that Trump is just like arresting
no,
U.S.
I'm
or he's arresting green card holders because of their pro Palestine speech and nothing else.
I'm biting my tongue heavily. That's
I
my
don't care.
thing.
Don't bite your tongue. I don't care.
Oh, you don't, I'm I'm gonna continue biting my tongue because you don't. You'll just end the call as fast as possible. If you want to just end it, end it.
I don't care.
Um, you actually just got me in the fucking. Oh, so all right, now what's your opinion on small businesses? What are taxes that we pay? Um, Obviously we don't receive support because of the fact that we are small businesses. We are for ourselves. So I lose out on a couple tax credits, just because of the fact that the vehicle I have to run, I don't have any option to run the vehicle that I'm in, right? So I lose the tax credit on all that.
I mean, I don't know. I think Trump just gave a really good tax cut to the big corporations. I don't know what he did for small businesses though.
So that's also one of the things that like I kind of supported like the Democratic Party with was because they lighten up on the taxes for middle class, small businesses, low
Mm-hmm.
income. Trump does raise the taxes on them, lowers the taxes on the bigger people.
Um, I'm sure there's some type of I don't know. I don't really know what kind of question you're asking. I'm more concerned with like you're very well you know a lot about Hunter Biden, for example, but you don't know much about the green card holders and students that are being put into vans that are unmarked right now and being detained and deported for their speech, which I think is very anti-American. And Trump is doing that right now. And like Trump is extorting law firms. Trump is threatening law firms and saying essentially you have to do free work for me, or we're going to ban you. He's suing pollsters. He's threatening to deport American citizens to El Salvador slave camps. Like Trump is doing so many things right now that are historically a bottom, like the worst
So
thing a
I
U.S. president has ever done in the modern era, and you don't know much about those things. It seems.
so I knew about the whole deporting back to uh I'm starts with the A, South American country. I'm terrible with whatever. But I do know about some of the green card stuff. So I actually did. I went to Russia during the Biden era and whatnot. I was welcomed. Great time out there. I actually went to Ukraine. I went through the war zone, and it was pretty fucked up. I went to actual Ukraine. Those people are fighting for their fucking lives. The people they're in an occupied territory, and they have been fully brainwashed. They're on full blown um, Russian passports, Russian everything. But so how I ended up out there was from green card holders out here. They're not having any issues with green cards still. Even Guatemalans in my area, they don't have any issues with any of that.
No, he's going after people for their speech. So if they say something pro-Palestinian, he's going after them.
Well, isn't Palestine for the U.S.? I know they're against India.
Um.
Or
Uh.
did we just bomb Palestine?
Never mind. Do you think that um. Let me see.
I'm pretty well disconnected with news and whatnot. I'm kind of a little bit on my own, but I look down into some deeper policies and stuff, especially on the local level. But I worry about what I worry about for myself as of right now because I got a lot of fighting. I'm young. I'm pretty young, but I got a lot of fighting to do, and that's why I worry about what I want to worry about.
Do you think it's weird that America is such a rich country, but we have worse healthcare systems than like Australia and Europe.
Oh, it is that is an issue. I don't like that the fact that the look at all one of the best things that someone said to me years ago was look at all the big skyscrapers in the big cities. They're mainly owned by insurance companies. Yet they're just over.
Would you be for like a system like Australia or Germany has where you can have universal systems to go onto or like government plans you could buy into so you don't need to do private
I haven't
insurance?
I haven't looked into Australia or Germany. I didn't know that they did universal ones like that. I looked into the Canadian one and I did not like that. I'll have to look into the Australian one and German one.
Well, they guarantee healthcare to all people in those countries. Australia, even if you're a tourist, you can go to Australian
Yeah.
doctors. But in America, we're kind of too selfish to give that to everyone, so I don't know if we'll do it, but hopefully we will because Americans live on average like 7 years less on average than someone from Europe or another country. So it becomes an
I
issue
went
there.
I personally went about 5 years without health insurance in it, and it was pretty fucking scary the whole time.
Well,
So
that's why it's good to
I
have a
would like to
universal
go.
system. I know they don't like Canada, so like Canada's single payer only with no private plan. But you can have like a system like
Yeah.
Canada where everyone's covered, but you still have private plans available. So if you want to buy into the private plan, you can get a rebate back from the government and buy into a private plan, and get and I don't know have your wait time reduced or whatever. But if you lose a job and you're in between jobs, you don't have to be worried about taking chances because like right now your employment is your health insurance largely. For most people that don't have a business or whatever, like we can't leave jobs or take risks or become entrepreneurs because we're worried about our healthcare. And I think having universal healthcare and like a system for all of us to fall back on would really, reignite the American spirit and give us a lot less stress. And also we can help doctors and stop making them have to deal with these shitty private insurance companies that don't want to make anyone's life easier.
Yeah, they don't want to cover something. So now with that, you did actually. Shit, it just went fucking zoom out of my head. The whole entrepreneur thing, whatnot. They don't have to worry about if they quit their job or lose their job, they lose health insurance. But
Yeah,
now,
in the current system, yeah,
yeah, they would, and then they have to pay out of pocket for it. So
yeah.
now, what about retirement funds? Everyone says, and it really seems like Social Security's running out. Yeah, you can put it in your Roth IRA, and you can put it on a 401k when you're in employment. You can put it on a 401k, and you get matches. What about a stronger retirement plan for the people that would leave or lose their jobs to go do something else, like an entrepreneurship?
Um, you can transfer your 401k or 401(b) depending on what you have to different employers. I'm definitely pro keeping Social Security. It reduced I think senior poverty by like 40 or 50%. It still does. It's good to have that insurance plan. All you need to do is lift the cap on it a little bit because like right now you and Elon Musk pay into Social Security the same exact number. You and Elon Musk
Yeah,
pay the exact same amount into it, which I think is kind of dumb. I think if you're lucky enough to be successful in this system where you make billions and billions of dollars, you can pay into it a little bit more. So everyone has a basic standard of living, and you have to understand, like also with Social Security, these are also consumers. These are people who live in housing. They are able to have better health outcomes. So making sure everyone has a way to live and not be on the streets helps our economy as well. So there's so many reasons why I think Social Security is a good program that we could easily fix it. I don't know why politicians talk like it's some magical formula we need to crack or like a Bitcoin we need to
well,
mine.
it's supposedly Social Security is running out. You said they should live in houses, but there's it's been proven there's not enough houses. And yes, you did say Elon Musk pays the same into Social Security as us. This is another big thing I'd love to see would be that the fact that these people in the country, like Elon Musk, he's one of the richest men in the world. He's based in the U.S., but he doesn't pay taxes because of how much he expenses and whatnot, expenses, but how much he puts out of the country into other things. Do you think that they should push for more taxes on them?
I think we should go back to having higher marginal rates. So, thank you so much for Thank you so much for the Cash App
All right.
donation, Rita. Thank you for Cash App $20. Thank you so much. You said having a mouthful. Yeah, thank you, Rita. Um, yeah. I think we should definitely be taxing really wealthy people more, for the stability of our overall system as well. We can have a marginal tax rate that only kicks in, like, I don't know, if you make above $10 million a year, then you could tax that, a higher percentage for those super high brackets.
But they're playing the game where they're putting it out of the country somehow, or they're like using their credit cards and then paying their credit cards out of a different country, so they
Yeah,
have
that's
to
why we
pay
need
the income taxes on it.
actually, fun fact. So they fired a lot of IRS agents, but IRS agents actually help us collect tax revenue at a really high rate. So if they hire more like IRS agents, they don't go after small people like you and me. Okay, they don't go
Oh,
after
yeah,
anyone
yeah,
that's
yeah.
not super wealthy. But if they have too little people, they can only go after regular people. So we need to hire more IRS agents, which Biden did do, but they fired all of them. They go after the bigger
Well,
cases to prevent what you're talking about.
one of my opinion, my opinion is Biden did overhire those IRS agents. What was it, 8,700 IRS agents? And then one of my other issues was he issued them guns as well.
Well, the thing with the IRS agents, you can look at the math. Okay, you can look at the math and see that the IRS agents had a huge return on investment, huge ROI, as people would say. We could hire more agents and get even more revenue back for our government to properly collect our taxes. So it actually was not enough agents, to be honest, according to the facts of the case of the matter.
How many IRS agents were prior to that 8,700 then?
I'm not sure what the exact numbers are. I just know the reports say that there's still some like revenue we're missing, and also, like you said before, people hide their money. More people to find out where the ultra wealthy are hiding their funds, because like they're buying into America. They're using our infrastructure. They're using things like they're using our workers. I think they should be able to honestly report their taxes. And we should have some type of way to close loopholes and keep track of where people move their money.
Okay, so I guess that 8,700 was a drop in the bucket. I've just looked it up right now. This is from IRS, the 2023 financial year. There was 82,990 full-time IRS agents. That's just across the whole company or the whole division.
Yeah.
So I guess that 82,000 or 8,200 was a drop in the bucket. But yeah, it does make sense to have more IRS agents to try to find those guys, the bigger wealthy guys, because obviously their taxes are probably asinine.
It's more complicated to track.
They're flooding it with anything and everything they possibly can.
And there could be a point where you hire too many agents and you're like, oh, this is one too many. But still, it's good to have flexibility in the system to make sure everything's cleaned up. And it usually does pay for itself. Like there's agencies that also restrict from how corrupt big companies can be. So if like a bank screws someone over, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau was actually done in 2010 after the 2008 financial crisis, and it helped protect a lot of American consumers.
Were they the ones that went after Bank of America?
I mean, probably.
Okay.
But they've returned much more money back to American taxpayers than they cost to run. It's also just like a place people can call. And companies are more honest because it exists, because they know they can't just screw people over. Sadly, Trump killed it, or he wants to kill it, and he's in the process of killing it, which is not good, because I like the CFPB a lot, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
Okay. CFPD?
CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The actual numbers on it are really good.
I just want to look into the numbers when I get a chance later. So it's I'm going to bring back the whole gun control thing. There's a supposed thing that they might abolish the ATF, and consume it up into the FBI, because the FBI has more employees on it, versus the ATF really is lacking on a lot of the employees. What do you think about doing that, where they're consuming the divisions into another one?
I don't know. I mean, regardless, if Congress wants to change it, Congress should change a law. I don't know enough about the ATF and what their results are to really comment on it. But
now, if they were to use the CFPB, and merge it into the IRS and use the same, use the same fundings and use the same employees, because the IRS would have more employees than the CFPB with a
Well,
smaller
they do
budget, but the
different
IRS has a larger
things.
budget.
They do very different things. So like
But
many of these
now, say if
agencies
they were to,
before were combined, but they got separated into different agencies so they could focus on certain tasks. So the ATF was probably a part of like FBI or some type of DHS or whatever. But they were spread out to be their own thing. Just like the CFPB was, I forget what department it was in. But yeah, these are usually like we started off with like three different agencies, I think, or two or three. The Department of War, I think, at the beginning of our country, and like two other ones or one or two other ones. And those two or three split out for a bunch of different responsibilities. So that's why they have independent agencies rather than just having them all combined in like the same block.
well, now say if we were to break them up though and have them in the same entity, obviously have their kind of their own division, but they're all trained on the same thing. Where we notice something, and they bring in that different division to investigate on it further. Where say now the IRS isn't educated on what the CFPD does, and then it see it, and they just continue on. But if they did see it, they'd tell the CFPD guys to come on in and do the thing because they're in the same division. It'd be easier.
Well, it's just so like the IRS would work with. I'm gonna take another caller after this, but thank you for the call.
Yeah.
The IRS would be like tax collection, revenue collection for the U.S. government. CFPB would be like, for example, if a bank does something shady, you can call the CFPB and they'll do investigations into companies after the fact. So it's just like a completely different realm of like looking for fraud and protecting consumers versus just like making sure taxes are collected according to the law. So they do like very fundamentally different things. So the CFPB would not look for tax fraud. They'd look for like, for example, if a bank is cheating you out on interest payments, or like I think one case was a bank offered credit card security protection or like bank security protection, but it was fake. They just called it that and charged more. And the CFPB could return money back to consumers.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's why I asked you about the whole IRS thing. Was say if the IRS did see it, hey, they just screwed half their customers out of their interest payment, and they put it somewhere else.
Yeah, they just wouldn't see it because it's just like two different things. They have their own. It's very distinct what they do from each other. So the IRS would not see what you're talking about. They would look at like two different levels of finances.
Well, the IRS would see hey, they paid out an interest payment to us. There'd be a loss on paper to them, right? It'd be a loss it'd be a loss to that company on paper, but they saw that they only paid half of what they should have.
I mean, I'm sure there's reporting. I'm sure there's some reporting shared between agencies. If they do like a full audit of somewhere, but I'd have to look into it more.
All right, but well, go take the other call. Have a good night.
All right, thank you, man. Have a good one. Final call. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Donate to Jolah Politics on Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal, or Coffee Link, whatever.
Hello.
Hello. What's up?
Is
Politics,
this the debate
YouTube?
thing?
Yeah, it's YouTube. Yeah. What's up?
All right, interesting. I don't know. I was just I saw it pop up on my timeline, and I'm not much of a debate person, but I'd call myself a moderate.
Yeah, I guess it depends what kind of moderate, because you could be a moderate now in between, and you could be between like Democrats and Trump, or you could be a moderate in terms of you're a moderate politically, which means you're between like George Bush and Obama. So there's a big difference there.
Well, I just think that I wouldn't say I follow party lines on anything. And so
yeah, no one really does.
I saw the headline on the thing, which is Trump is bad, and that's probably a generalization. I certainly would say his character is bad.
So right now, there are many cases of Trump pardoning people who are just like pure fraudsters, who screwed people over with their companies. He pardoned all the January 6 people that beat up cops. He's currently attacking green card holders and visa holders who are students for their speech, just being pro-Palestine, in that conflict, just speaking out, in favor of humanitarianism or humanitarian causes from Israel, for areas that Israel has gone too far during this entire process. And, he's sending innocent people to El Salvador to be in slavery until they die, and laughing about it.
There's a couple things there.
Yeah, sure.
In terms of the pardoning, I think that in general, I don't support pardons in terms of how it's set up, whether it's done by Biden at the end of the last administration or this one. I know that that's part of how the U.S. is set up, but I do think that is having that as a presidential power is probably too much and should have judges behind that. In general, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I guess you could judge what pardons they do, and that's why I brought up I guess Biden pardoning his son because Trump said they're gonna go after him politically, use the DOJ to go after him as a weapon, weaponizing the DOJ. So I understand why Biden did that. And they had Hunter there on
I certainly would believe that the Biden administration was weaponizing the DOJ.
So when we look at the facts of the cases where Trump did crimes, he did the actual crimes, and it's proven in a court. And what Trump wanted to do was make up cases about Hunter Biden and make up cases about people in the media.
But he did actually illegal. Which case are you referencing there? We can go case by
I mean,
case.
Any case you could bring up with Joe Biden weaponizing the Department of Justice. I mean, there's no proof of him doing that. In fact, Merrick Garland made it really intent, purpose to not go after anything. He refused to even seem somewhere near partisan at all. I mean, Biden's DOJ investigated Joe Biden. He let his own DOJ investigate him. Trump is openly using it right now as a political tool. Pam Bondi's on Fox News literally every single day, multiple times, to be a propaganda agent.
Yeah, the propaganda of the current administration is certainly something I'm not agreeing with. But if we go back to the Biden administration, would you say that Hunter Biden is not guilty of anything?
Anything as far as they had him there for filling out an ATF form wrong based off a memoir he wrote or something, and also back taxes.
Ukrainian corruption.
If he was, I believe Republicans would have charged him. They did a lot of investigating, a lot of money was spent, and they couldn't find anything to charge him on.
He was pardoned at the end by Joe Biden.
No, but Republicans would have charged him early, within the 4 years that Biden was president. Hunter Biden, they spent tons of money on investigating Hunter, and the only person that came forward was turned out to be connected to Russia, and he admitted to lying, and he was convicted for lying about the Burisma stuff. So Republicans have zero evidence about Hunter doing that. They have zero evidence about it.
Biden, the Hunter Biden laptop is an accurate thing.
The thing is but the thing is, you're saying right now, was it weaponized? And no, I don't know how this connects to weaponization, but Republicans had investigations. They could have brought something against Hunter. Why did they not bring anything against Hunter if there was something there?
So that wasn't the point about the weaponization. The point I was trying to bring there was that Biden did pardons that he probably shouldn't have. He said he wasn't going to pardon his son, and then he totally did.
Yeah, well, Donald Trump made it very clear he was going to go after people for political purposes aggressively. Even those who are pardoned, you realize that Trump tried to reverse pardons. He tried to reverse pardons. What's even crazier than a pardon is trying to reverse it. Trump said he could reverse pardons.
Yeah, I don't agree with pardons in the first
But that's why
place,
that's why Biden did that, and I'm against Biden doing that, by the way. But I can also recognize that what Trump is doing right now is a million times worse than anything Biden ever even dreamed of. There's no comparison.
But if we agree on Biden should not have done those types of
I understand it, but I don't think he should have. But I understand it given the context of Trump being so violently against everything that can hold him accountable.
All right. So now the Trump is bad thing. I think it's probably pretty easy to, argue that point with the current tariff stuff because everything is going to instantly become more expensive. But do you believe that there's any positives to tariffs as they're being applied right now?
Being applied right now? Hell no.
Okay. Yeah, I think the idea of the blanket tariffs are a bad idea. But if there was a more strategic tariff where countries work together, like the U.S. called to the EU and they worked together to tariff China, would you have supported something like that?
Yeah, and the issue is that like Obama already did things like that, and other presidents have done things like that, and Trump is very anti-free trade in general.
Like Trump's previous term applied a lot more tariffs than any of the like Obama or Biden.
Yeah, but as far as like so we had the TPP, I believe under Obama. That included the U.S., Japan, Canada, Mexico, Australia, Singapore, Vietnam, and a couple other countries. And that actually really was an effective way to get around China. So that's a really good way to go after China trade-wise, is to make deals with other countries. But with Trump attacking Canada and Mexico and the EU constantly, it seems like that's not really his goal.
Yeah. So what about that? The $800 or $400 rule that was put in place by Obama that basically has caused like Temu to exist and everything, where tariffs and import fees don't apply to purchases under that amount.
I mean, if they want to change it, they can. I don't know what I never really studied the exact rule. I know it exists, but.
Okay, yeah, basically anything that Obama made it so that any import under $400 would not receive a tariff. And so that's why now like Temu will ship stuff directly from China because it won't apply to the tariffs.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard too, because like if you're protecting national security, if that's the argument that Trump is making, then you would need to like it wouldn't matter at that price level. Like we wouldn't care about protecting us from toasters and stuff from Temu.
I think that the $400 rule is probably one of the bigger issues with how it's all set up, because the Chinese companies just completely avoid tariffs through that.
Regardless, and we knew that because we wanted to protect vital industries, which would not be in that price point, like I said. But like Trump is attacking the EU, attacking Canada, and attacking Mexico. He's attacking all of our partners for no reason. I think he's just a power hungry king going mad.
Yeah, certainly power hungry, and probably going a little mad. But I think if the tariffs, like let's say that next week, a lot of these countries call in and say like, you know what, we will make an agreement, and then all the tariffs are gone, and there are trade agreements which are beneficial to the United States next week. I'm not saying that's a likely scenario, especially with China right now. But if that does happen, do you believe that like, okay, Trump was right the whole time, or is there some other thing?
No. Then it's full propaganda or just him wanting to do executive powers for fun, because he could literally just do that right now. There's nothing stopping him from making trade deals right now. If he was a good negotiator, he would not need to crash our economy to negotiate.
I mean, there's probably some truth to that. But like, if the trade agreements come back, the stock market will go right back to where it was.
Yeah. It's just like during this period, people are going to get laid off. People are going to lose their houses. People are going to lose their cars. It's just not something to play games with when you could just be an effective leader and not a dipshit like Trump is.
Yeah. Like, how many people do you think within this like small dip, or like, I'm not saying small, large, but brief dip, are going to have like significant effects on them? Because most people don't have debts against it that are in like those types of poor tax brackets. Like if you have something where you're going to get repossessed based on the stock market, that's typically happening only at higher income levels.
There's investments that are happening where like let's say you're building a factory right now, like manufacturing, and you're getting steel from around the world and a bunch of different items for your electrical systems or whatever machines you need. Like right now, tariffs cause manufacturing to lessen in general. Our manufacturing is going to be less because of the tariffs.
So right now, like this is kind of like Trump. He is showing up with a suicide vest, as far as I'm seeing it, and basically saying like, "I'll kill us both." And so then the other country, in a lot of cases, it has worked as a negotiation tool. Right now, it's not working at all with China because the tariff is at 104%, because both of them just keep bouncing back and forth. But like it worked with Colombia very effectively earlier in the year. A lot of other countries have already called in to make agreements.
The Colombia thing was a fake. That was propaganda as well. Colombia did not give anything as a result of the tariffs. That was already like whatever. Like that was fake.
block the people being sent back to deportations, and then they accepted them the
No,
next day.
their demands were they did not want to have their people returned on military jets. They wanted them returned through the standard planes, and they got their wish. So Trump actually caved, but Trump lies about everything because he's a narcissistic asshole. He's literally the worst human being to ever be president, other than the slave owning ones. And yeah.
Yeah, as far as a moralistic human being, I'm not going to argue any of that.
But he's a lying. Everything he says is a damn lie. He has not said one true thing this entire presidency. He has not said one true thing. You can bring up anything he's ever said in this presidency, this term. He has not said one true thing.
I've got to disagree with that. Like, again, I'm not a Trump supporter, certainly, but that's, I think you as well know that that's a complete exaggeration.
No, 100%. Every policy he's talked about has been completely false. He still says he won the 2020 election. He still says he won that. And he wants to go after people who say that he didn't.
Yeah.
He's cleaning out the FBI. He literally just fired the NSA director because Laura Loomer told him to. Like, he's literally he's a complete authoritarian fascist. He's an authoritarian fascist. He's a communist too. Trump's a communist.
He does a lot of. Wait, what was that last bit?
Trump's a communist.
Trump is a communist.
Yeah, in terms of like North Korea and Russia and China, he's a communist. He fits right in. He was talking about this week how material doesn't matter. Authoritarian, state command economy. He wants to control everything. He wants to be like the dictator, making every single decision.
I don't think he wants a state-controlled economy, certainly. How are you seeing that?
The tariffs is executive power, and you have to beg Trump for concessions. That's what he loves. He wants to be in control of everything.
The tariffs are not the internal economy of the United States. Like, obviously, the states' rights, I forget the case, but there was the one in, like, Ohio or something during one of the world wars where the federal government came in and said, like, you are not allowed to grow corn on your own property because that will affect how other states are growing their corn. And obviously something like that, I would say, that's federal power that is trying to control trade within the United States, and that's, more of a communist type thing.
Man,
but
Trump is extorting law firms right now. Trump is extorting law firms. If they don't work for him, he's starting to use the law to come after them and ban them from courtrooms and shit and federal buildings. He's literally extorting to law firms to do pro bono work for him.
I'm not trying to disagree with, these bits here, but let's try to stay on the one topic, just because, like, again, I'm not a Trump person, but I just kind of want to debate that there is positives as to what's happening here.
Okay, so the tariffs right now is the largest tax increase ever done to the working class in America, the largest tax increase in general in American history since the 50s. And it's done unilaterally by a Republican president. He's a communist who wants us to own nothing. But yeah, about the tariffs, the current rates of tariffs are going to kill the economy. If he keeps these tariffs right now, America is going to be under China and the EU. We're going to be tied with Russia economically if he keeps these tariffs unironically. I think he's going to back off and say, I made some epic deals, because he's a 12-year-old who needs to be given given candy to clean his room. But still, if he kept these tariffs somehow, it's oh my god, the repercussions of that would be holy shit. China's eating right now. China is winning right now. China's getting so much more trade. People are going to trust China more than the U.S. now.
Well, there's many things that were said there. First off, like, I kind of want to try and stay on one topic here, because I'm not trying to debate go Trump. I'm just trying to debate that, like, you are coming off as very much like you're like, he's 1,000 times worse. He has not said a single true thing. He does this and that, and it's like, look, these are, exaggerations. And when people, that my issue with general stuff like this, and the reason I kind of asked to call in with the Trump is bad headline, that's obviously like a generalization. Trump has done many bad things and has bad character. But if you say, like, he has only ever told lies and he's 1,000 times worse than Joe Biden, then that's kind of like, it seems as though you are definitely in a bubble as well. And like, I'm wondering, where do you genuinely believe he's 1,000 times worse than Joe Biden?
Donald Trump is ignoring court orders that made him send innocent people to El Salvador, slave camps, and he laughed at them. He laughed at them.
We go through each of these points one by one after. Do you think that Trump is 1,000 times worse than Joe Biden, like you said 5 minutes ago?
150 million% on every single policy, on every single level, yes.
150 million%. I think this is where we're getting into these numbers being a bit exaggerated.
I'm sorry, I can see basic reality, and you need to just, like, dick around the middle because you don't have any strong opinions and you don't want to take any strong opinions because you're too weak
I have a
to
lot of
do that.
strong opinions.
No,
We
you
can
don't
debate
really.
some-
You have a very weak stand. Your strong opinion is staying out of any really ideological fray because you don't really have a strong ideology, so you're insecure about it and don't want to express it. Because if you don't know that Trump is a million times worse than Joe Biden, then you're just like a brain poisoned moderate who needs to be a centrist in every situation because you need to seem like the reasonable one in the room. But if you're thinking they're equal at all, then you are not reasonable. No reasonable person can think they're even somewhat similar.
Where I would say I'm certainly more extreme on certain opinions. And some of them are very left wing and some of them are very right wing. I would say that on average, economically, I'm probably in the middle, which I think is what most of the current, talk through the whole world is economic, which is why I'd call myself a moderate. If it was all about drugs, I would say I'm very right wing. And if we want to talk like something where I have strong opinions, we can talk drugs. But and then other things, environmental, climate change, I'm very left wing. If you want to talk that, I don't think that we'd have much of a debate there. But the a million times worse thing, I think that's like, obviously you are exaggerating. You're saying things that are like, I can't say objectively not true with anything because everything like this is opinions, but 1,000, a million times worse than saying you're 150 million% sure of that. This is like, you're being ridiculous.
Donald Trump is trying to subvert the entire Constitution. He's literally trying to subvert the Constitution. Yes, he is that bad. We can talk through those points.
Okay, so let's go through one single point. Let's choose a topic and let's try to debate that, just so we aren't jumping around. And then if we agree on that one point, then no more saying we're talking about tariffs. Then you just bring up court judges on random stuff. And let's pick a topic and let's debate it. Do you have a topic?
Yeah. So ICE right now is defying the American spirit and also the Constitution. And like I said, Trump sending innocent people to El Salvador, calling them gang members with no due process, is 100% a constitutional violation. And his administration laughing about that and making videos, hype videos about this with Dr. Phil and all these people is one of the biggest atrocities in modern U.S. history.
So again, I agree that them making fun of it on Twitter is crazy and so just very inhumane in general. That one Studio Ghibli photo of the woman in the cooking hat wear thing. Obviously, I'm that's terrible. This is ridiculous that this is how the administration is treating this. But when it comes to something like that, she obviously did commit crimes and does deserve to be deported from the country. But the way that they're handling it, I would agree, is
I'm talking about the innocent people sent to El Salvador labor camps. I'm talking about the innocent people that the Trump administration admit they made mistakes about and they still laughed about.
Yeah, so the laughing is where I have an issue. I'd say
I have an issue with the innocent people sent to El Salvador. The innocent people violating due process. Violating due process. That's the part that matters, not the laughing part.
Yeah, so the violating due process. Look, it's when it comes to the United States specifically, the idea of how we handle what is defined as legal is all just based on precedent. And so when it comes to what the powers of the president are to do deportations, it has happened in the past with the Constitution in very extreme ways. And whether or not that's a good thing, it obviously these cases should be handled more delicately. But I think that there are certain situations where the president has to take extreme measures in order to do things that would be impossible otherwise. If we try to get to the core of this, do you believe that millions of people who have come to the country illegally, should they be deported? Yes or no? Do you believe in a perfect humane?
Just to center this around again. Okay, we're not talking about immigration. This is why you need to look into this more, because your opinion is based on very surface level evaluations of this stuff. Because Trump right now has sent multiple people with legal protection from being sent to El Salvador. There's one person who had an autism awareness tattoo. They said that was gang oriented. coming to America legally from Venezuela. There's a professional soccer player with a Real Madrid tattoo. Professional soccer player, Real Madrid tattoo, was tortured by electric shock in Venezuela, came to America, legal asylum, legal port of entry, was sent to El Salvador. They laughed and said, these are brown people. They must be criminals. The administration laughed at them while violating their due process. Innocent, protected people, protected legal people who are. Hey, can you shut up for 2 seconds? Can you shut your mouth for 2 seconds? I'm telling you real facts about this. You need to be able to hear it because this is American, and if you don't want to be in America, go to a different country where you can be a dumbass moderate somewhere else. Legal people who are legally here, sent to slavery in El Salvador. This is a forced labor camp in El Salvador. And Trump's argument was, well, they looked like a gang member. We thought they were. And although we were wrong, we can't get them back now because they're out of our custody or they're out of U.S. borders. With that standard, Trump can grab up anyone that looks like a gang member. U.S. citizens, violate their due process. Show your ID, screw you. Take you in a van, send you to El Salvador, nothing else they can do with you. They can't get you back, whatever. You're going to be in El Salvador, you're going to be beat, you're going to be killed. That's the big point. You're legal residents. People here legally are sent to be in slavery camps in El Salvador, and Trump is lying, saying they're known gang members when we know that's not true.
Okay, so I'm not trying to disagree with that being bad. I think that that's obviously not a good thing, and in general,
that is not just not a good thing, though. You don't understand that. See, that's why you must be on lithium or something.
So I have a larger point here, and so I think that we'll probably agree on this. So just like if you want to give a short answer so that I can make the point afterwards. Do you think that the U.S. justice system is just and good in its current state and the people who are in prisons right now in the United States?
It's amazing.
You think it's amazing? Is that sarcasm?
I think America, the due process we have, makes sure. I think the laws on the books might be messed up, but if due process is followed right, where it is followed correctly, it's really good. Well, obviously not perfect.
You would say that the people who are in prison right now in the United States, you'd say that there aren't many cases of people who were put in there unfairly?
I would say that unfairly in a sense of a court case went wrong, or unfairly in a sense that they were just like, if there was due process and someone is in there unfairly, that sucks for sure. That does happen, but with due process, then those cases are kept to a minimum.
So I would say that I would have assumed that you would have a different opinion on this because there are a significant amount of people in U.S. prisons, maybe less so that are still going in nowadays, but people who are sentenced for a long amount of time for small marijuana charges, things like that, primarily of African American heritage and stuff because of those factors, right? I think that that's it's not that it's still happening as high of a degree, but it obviously was in the past. And so I would say that in that case, the U.S. justice system has not been fair, right? And when it comes to this El Salvadorian deportation thing, I agree. These cases where people are being thrown into the prisons when they shouldn't be, that's obviously bad, right? And to have you have your examples that you brought up to 3 or 4 or whatever it was that are obviously very terrible examples that should not have happened, right? But the same thing happens in any justice system. To have any justice system that's 100% accurate is impossible, and would
do you understand the issue here, though? Do you understand the big distinction? These are dozens of cases, by the way. It's dozens. It's dozens confirmed cases where they knew they were innocent and took them. So, these people had their due process violated. They had no justice system. The DOJ was barely involved. These are federal agents, the feds, the Gestapo, picking people up and taking them to a foreign government. That is not the same as the justice system failing. That is people's rights being violated completely. The Constitution being torn apart and shredded. And you're saying, that's not that good. This is literally the Constitution being shredded. If you think this is just not that good, you would have been outside the gas chambers that's not too good. Democrats were similar though. You have no concept of being able to see how bad this shit is. And I don't know, maybe you have to be in the gulags for you to realize how bad this is, but they did not have a day in court at all. They were violated. Every part of their livelihood was violated, and now the White House is being a propaganda agent to villainize and demonize them and say they were violent gang members when they weren't.
And so again, I think that you're talking in a way that is a bit more as if we disagree on the whole part of this, right? I agree with a lot of what you're saying on this, right? I think that it is an issue, and it should probably, in terms of like, but the one thing you're saying there, like at the start that you, at the start of that last little rant, was that like they knew they were innocent, and I don't think that that's accurate. Obviously, like I can't prove it my way, you can't prove it your way either, though. To know that someone is innocent and do that, I don't think that's what the administration is doing. I just think that they're being pretty careless about actually checking whether or not someone is innocent in that way. Do you agree on that, or do you think that they knew and did it anyway?
They 100% knew, because when they filed the motion to actually like have the Alien Enemies Act used, or whatever, the executive order, they waited until they already had the people ready to go on the planes before they even had a chance for it to be reported. So they couldn't get any scrutiny or any court orders. And then they essentially said that
But
they're arguing now that the judges can't even. It's all along the same line. That's why. So like when you look at the intent of them doing it and violating the rights, you can tell the intent by the timeline. That is one of the most important things.
So, are you, when you're referring to like if they knew that they were innocent, are you referring to like Trump and like the White House, or are you referring to the individual cases with ICE? Because like the White House does not give the right. That's like handled at an ICE level, right? And
They know they're innocent now, and they're still lying. So yes, they knew they were innocent when they sent them. They just wanted to. They want to orchestrate power to show they can do it.
So you can't make that assumption, right? And they also, I would say, like the cases where they know they're innocent, I imagine that in a lot of these cases they are going to like try and make the fix. You can say like you disagree with that, and we can't really argue that, right? That's all.
We can argue that. We know, we have testimony from reporters and photographs, and we have all the pictures of these people and like their cases. Like some of them have court cases the next day, but they ripped away their IDs and didn't even let them show ID. Like the ICE agents like purposely violated their constitutional rights. This did happen. You can talk about this. We believe it or not, we're not blind. Believe it or not, we have ways to communicate. Believe it or not, there's ways to look at these things in some type of objective reality. Again, you're just like, you're unwilling to go to. This is an issue I have with like moderates or centrists that claim that label. I don't give a shit about that label. I don't even want to talk I don't even want to talk about political labels anymore, because people just use the word moderate and spam it everywhere. If you're unable to see the severity of things, you're useless. Like I don't know what else to tell you. If you don't see how bad this is, like I don't know what I could tell you.
So like I think that we agree on a large part of this.
Someone says SCOTUS agreed with Trump. Okay, John in chat. SCOTUS did not agree with Trump. SCOTUS agreed unanimously. SCOTUS agreed unanimously that they violated the constitutional rights. What they disagreed on is if the Trump administration had to find a route for them to come back. They granted like a stay or whatever, and they have to decide in the future. I don't know when that actually the final decision is. But they unanimously agreed. They unanimously agreed the Constitution was violated. Unanimously, they said the Trump administration violated the Constitution. But they might grant them the ability to just ignore it because they don't have a functional way to get the guy back. But by that standard, they could take a U.S. citizen and ship them off to El Salvador, and then they could be like, "Whoops, we did it by accident," and never have to get them. But they never have to get them back. Although they're paying El Salvador to freaking hold people. Like what you just said is completely untrue. If you actually read the Supreme Court order, you dipshit, John.
It hasn't happened to a U.S. citizen yet, correct? And I say yet because I'm not saying it's never going to. We can't predict the future, but like it hasn't happened with a U.S. citizen yet, correct? If I'm mistaken in that,
not yet.
Please let me know. But okay, so not yet. We agree on that. So then like it isn't the same to like make your points, right? Because like I think that we agree on a lot of like the core stuff in a lot of ways, but then you'll say something that
they have detained, by the way. They have detained U.S. citizens. They have detained U.S. citizens already for hours and hours and hours. They have detained U.S. citizens for 10 hours, 20 hours, whatever, a few days. But they have not got one. They have not gotten one on a plane to slavery. So.
Yeah, I've been detained to be questioned by police, right? Like that's
no. They are holding them. They are holding them in detention centers for people that are going to be sent to El Salvador or people that are going to be deported when they have permanent legal residence or they have. Like the one person they sent, the one country he was legally protected from was El Salvador. He was here protected. He has a U.S. wife, and he was protected from explicitly El Salvador, and they still sent him there. Like just because it didn't happen yet, it's gonna happen. I guarantee you.
If we talk about the again, so these are the things. Like I'm not trying to disagree with a lot of the more moderate points you're making, but when you say something as like absolute as like they are absolutely going to send American citizens to El Salvador, you don't know that. Like
they're trying to. That alone, the fact they want to try to send U.S. citizens to El Salvador illegally makes them a million times worse than Joe Biden. Even the fact they want to try doing that.
The number a million here is the part where I'm
sorry you get offended. I'm sorry you're emotional. Like it's so pathetic. Shut up. Like just talk to me. Just talk to me. Stop fixating on the numbers.
Well, no. So I think the numbers are relevant. Like
No, it doesn't. I'm
I
saying
think
hyperbolic numbers. I'm obviously being hyperbolic.
yeah. So well, let's not be hyperbolic if we're trying to have an actual debate, right? Like I could be saying like if
Oh
we're
my
being
God, are
hyperbolic,
figures of speech gonna offend
you're,
you? Jesus.
I haven't been offended by any of this. I think we're like, having I'm enjoying this nonetheless because I think we mostly agree on most things still. Like you're coming at it pretty aggressively because I have some things that we, like don't agree on the details of, and I'm saying
No,
you're being
I
hyper.
just understand what the severity of this is, and you don't. That's the big difference here. It doesn't matter if we agree or disagree. The severity does matter.
Yeah, so severity does matter, yes, but I think that your like in your hyperbolism, I don't know what the word is, like the how hyperbolic you're being with your saying like this is going to happen. Absolutely, I'm a million% sure. It's 1,000 times worse. He's gonna, deport, blah blah blah. Like the being hyperbolic like that does make it really hard for people to like have you as a reliable source on this like YouTube channel, right? No.
No. Hey, thank you, Sri, for the
So
$5,
like
Sri.
if your like news that you read was like the stock market went down 1,000,000% today, you don't think that's an issue?
Now, with the stock market, there's actual numbers tied to it. So yeah, that's actual numbers. When I say he's a million times worse than Biden, I'm saying that Trump is exceptionally worse than Biden. When I say a million times worse, that's what that figure of speech
So
would mean in the
well,
conversation.
like then let's try not to be hyperbolic and say like extremely worse,
Okay,
right?
Trump is extremely worse than Biden on pretty much every single on legitimately every issue, legit every issue.
Okay, so well let's every issue. Since we're on the part of deportations, obviously like how it's being done is inhumane still, but like do you think that there should be mass deportation of these people if it could be done perfectly humanely? Let's start there. If it could be done where it's all perfect due process and it's all humane, would you support deportation of every single one of these people, or do you have the belief that like we should keep them anyways because they're already here and they contribute to the economy, etc.?
If someone is a violent criminal or came in illegally, then like every administration, Obama, Biden, Trump, whatever, then they'd be grounds for deportation. But going after people who are in communities, they deported like a 10-year-old girl that has cancer. Like
So
I don't
well
want my
like
tax dollars spent on that. I want to keep them here working. We need more workers in America. We need labor in America.
so
And people
okay
are parts of are members of our community, and there's no reason to spend our tax dollars on getting these families displaced when they're members of our communities and our neighbors. Take care of the violent criminals, and that's it. Not green
so
card
well
holders,
you
not cracking down on free speech like Trump is doing right now with the Palestine protesters. Just get the violent criminals out like he said he was going to do.
we can get to that point after, but so like you said one thing at the start and then contradicted it. So you said like if they are violent criminals or came to the country illegally, the first bit, violent criminals, is obviously a much smaller umbrella than people who came to the country illegally. Do you believe that people who came to the country illegally and since then have not committed any violent crime, should those people be deported perfectly humanely in a perfect situation?
If someone came in illegally and they did not seek any legal route, like seeking asylum or anything, then yeah, if they're here illegally and they're not like undocumented or asylum seeking or protective status or whatever.
Okay, so then that's like I would
But
honestly
that's the
say that
normal
that's
standard for
probably
U.S.
more,
law.
that's well it is more like, and that's what most Democrats believed up until I would say like 2016 to try and contradict what Trump was saying. But like under Joe Biden, the number of illegal border crossings was like really large. Would you agree with that?
Biden's deportations were much higher than Trump's by percentage, even with the higher numbers.
So, but like if we're talking the overall number of people who came in illegally, would you say that
Yeah,
it
that
was
was
significant
post-COVID. That was a
more?
post-COVID effect, though. That has nothing to do with deportations.
You think that the huge number of people coming in was because of COVID?
100%. They were already increasing before Trump left office. Yeah.
Can you give a brief explanation of why you think that? Just like a brief one, so because I don't actually.
America had by far the best economy in the world after COVID, although everyone hates it because Democrats pronouns bad. America had by far the strongest economy. Countries were falling apart. America is a beacon of hope. There are more asylum seekers and more people in general coming to the border.
None of that
Legally, we have no way
includes-
to restrict border crossings. So a lot of people came over the border. So yeah, there was a higher influx of people coming to America seeking opportunities because their countries fell apart. That's one of the highest causes of immigration is other countries falling apart and people seeking opportunity. So like it was nothing to do with Biden. Like Obama and Trump had higher numbers than Obama did, and then Trump numbers went down because of COVID, and then it went right back up.
I think Obama did a much better job than Biden. Like I'm not going to try and argue that Obama was, a bad president or anything. I would certainly say that like probably one of the best of our time.
It's not Biden's fault. He had more people coming though. That's the thing. The policies Biden had when he deported a higher percentage of people.
But he didn't lock down the border, right? Like because Trump
followed U.S. law. Biden followed U.S. law. If Congress wanted to change that, they should have passed the border bill.
The bare minimum, right? Like following U.S. law is the bare minimum. If there's an issue, then he should have reacted to it more strongly, right?
Well, it depends what the issue is, because there was no issue. And I know this is unpopular in America because we're all super dramatic, but there was no place in America that had an increase in crime because of immigration. The opposite happened. So the idea that we're overrun by immigration is just, it makes no sense. We had jobs available. Our unemployment rate's super low.
Neither of us have the stats available on that, but I'm pretty sure that's wrong. And you can, immediately
come back. It's 100% correct. It's 100% correct. That's why Republicans need to talk about Lake and Riley. That's why Republicans still only talk about Lake and Riley and never actually bring up data. They bring up Lake and Riley and apartments in Colorado, and that's it. Because they don't have actual data to back it up.
The details on what migrant crime went up, I don't know the stats on that, and it may very well have not increased, but I know that violent crime overall did, and that's, there are a lot of causes of that, like
that's U.S. citizens,
general stiff arrest throughout Biden's presidency. Not necessarily his fault. There were a lot of world events that happened like during that time, but there was more civil unrest, there was more violent crime, and there was also a significant more people coming into the country illegally, because he did not take the actions that he should have and that Trump now has in a way that's probably too extreme.
Violating the laws is that, well, Trump violates the laws and you're okay with it. Biden doesn't violate the laws and you're not okay with it. But it's just like Congress should play a role here. Congress should be to blame for Biden's border crossings. And Biden could have done more for sure. But if Congress wanted to switch over the laws, they would have. But Trump told them not to pass a border bill. So I don't know what else you could do at that point.
The Trump border bill thing was a more complex than it can be made out to seem, but overall, I would say that when it comes to like the way Biden handled it, that is the number one issue that's kind of the largest issue I think right now, where during that election that was like an 80-20 issue, right?
That would have been the most that would have been the most conservative border bill in American history.
The most conservative border bill?
Yeah, if that would have passed, if Trump would have let that pass, it would have been the most conservative border bill in American history.
I don't know that, and I can't disprove it or agree with it. But
Langford, Oklahoma made it, and Trump wanted it denied because Trump likes it for politics. He doesn't really give a shit about the issue. But yeah, that was a big deal.
Yeah,
and the aid for Ukraine was not tied to that funding. It was passed separately. I know people bring that up as a reason that they didn't pass it, but
yeah, and like that. There's a chance that's true. I can't try and disprove that or not.
It is true.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll take it at your word for that. And I think that Trump did a lot of stuff that he shouldn't have in terms of politics to get elected, right? But in terms of the way that it was being handled, that is one of the 80-20 issues for the Republicans, because the Democrats went much more extreme. Especially
that's not true at all. They did not go much more extreme. It's just not true. This is all propaganda, bro. Republicans are racist about it. They make people mad about immigrants and afraid. Trump literally said, if you walk outside, you're gonna get raped. Your daughters and your wives are gonna get raped if you walk outside in your suburbs. If Biden wins, if Kamala wins, it's all the black and brown people are gonna be raping your daughter on the sidewalk. That's what Trump would say over and over and over again. They propagandize.
Okay, so again, these are the hyperbolic things, because that's not. Trump did not.
Trump said that over and over again. He literally said those exact words on the campaign trail over and over and over again. He literally said those exact words. I'll find it right now. I'll find it right now. You are literally brain dead.
Okay, so brain dead I think is different than not having the information on hand. But I really don't think that those exact.
You're claiming that I'm wrong. You're claiming that I'm wrong when Trump literally said that over and over and over again.
let's go to the exact words, because I know that he talked about, that R word a lot more than any.
He would share videos of brown people. He would share videos of brown people and say, "Watch out, they're coming for your kids." Like he would say that shit on social media constantly.
Yeah, so that I think is accurate, right? He would obviously show that, and then he had all those AI photos of like they're gonna eat the dogs and the cats, and obviously that's him being like ridiculous. But when it comes to the issue itself, as like what his policies were versus what Kamala's were and what Biden ran on, and if you even compare that to like Hillary running in 2012 or 2008, sorry, like she was much more of like her policy at the time, and the Democrats in general was like, if you can't speak English, then you should not be able to become a U.S. citizen. If you are here like illegally, then you should be deported. If you are here and just undocumented, then you should have to pay back taxes on everything. And if you had tried to get like a Democrat to say something like that in 2020, there's no chance that they would have like.
Yeah, because it's freaking stupid. It's stupid regardless. All those things are stupid, except you should probably be able to speak English a little bit. But all the other points are stupid as shit, and it's not about protecting communities. Like it's just stupid.
So you don't think that
undocumented people pay so many taxes? Undocumented immigrants pay tons of taxes, but they don't care about that. They're deporting those innocent people.
So like, what about no? But like there are definitely people here that are not paying taxes and should have to pay back taxes if they do follow a pathway to citizenship. Do you agree to that?
There's tons of people like they pay taxes, the ITIN. Like literally the DHS just made a deal with the IRS to find illegal immigrants or undocumented immigrants or visa overstays by using IRS data.
I know that it is possible to pay taxes, but I'm saying that there are a lot of people.
It's just like this is not what they care about. They want to get brown people out of America, and they say they're dangerous. Those are the two main points. Lake and Riley.
It's hard to argue any one of these points because there's really like there can't be objective facts to prove something like that when it comes to Trump, right? There are obviously like Republicans over the past 100 years have been the party that certainly is more, racist towards brown people. But like in terms of saying like this is why they're doing something,
Democrats got to do
like
better there.
Thing to prove, right?
Democrats got to catch up on that point.
Democrats have to catch up on being racist.
Yeah, that's why Trump is able to do so good. They got to catch up. They got to practice some words.
I don't know about racism, but I certainly think that right now the whole world, like every country, is kind of shifting towards nationalism, which I think is like a word that's tied to a lot of things that are considered bad.
It is.
But like believing in American nationalism. So you think that American nationalism as an idea is bad, like having this
it's terrible. Patriotism is good. Nationalism leads to world wars. Like nationalism leads to dictatorships. Patriotism is good. Patriotism is awesome.
Explain what you see as the difference there.
Patriotism can be like, I love my country, I'll fight for my country, but I'm not going to say, my country's always right no matter what. I want it to be better because I do love it. Nationalism is you're bowing down to the country. You'll take material sacrifice for your country. You're going to listen to the leader no matter what. You'll die for any reason if we ask you to. Material possessions don't matter. You have to follow whatever the nation says. Maybe you have like a deity or like a god king for it. Nationalism is about isolation and protectionism and nativism. Patriotism can be about love and liberalism and true passion for the freedoms your country provides. But nationalism always cuts down on freedoms because it's very nativist and very what's a good word for it? It turns into like a cult. It's like a cult versus a really strong team, I guess.
Okay, so like I think you're seeing it as more of like one is just a very extreme version of the other, which I don't think follows, a dictionary definition. Certainly, like I just kind of brought it up. I haven't been, Googling anything throughout this, which is probably why I'm not able to back up a lot of points here. But like nationalism is the identification of one's own nation and support for its interests, especially with the exclusion or detriment of other nations. So like essentially it's saying that like, patriotism can be we're America and we're doing great things and we're also helping Canada and helping, this country and that country. While nationalism is more like our priority is America, we're not going to help Canada. Canada's on its own, the EU is on its own, Ukraine's on its own, Israel's on its own, etc. Do you agree to those definitions, or do you still think that nationalism is like the extremist cult?
Nationalism, the reason I say it's an extremist cult is because it does things such as manifest destiny, or like America should be gaining more land, American exceptionalism to the point of we should be dominating other countries, like Hitler expanding Germany, or Putin expanding Russia, or Xi Jinping expanding China. They believe in this like national identity above all. You don't have personal identity anymore, nationalism. I'm just saying what the actual beliefs are and outcomes are, because you would never call yourself a nationalist if you don't have that. Like Christian nationalism, for example, which is what's taking over in the U.S. In the U.S. right now, Christian nationalism would
I
be a form
disagree
of
with that.
nationalism led by Christian. Literally, like the main people leading the government are all Christian nationalists. Like Pete Hegseth and Project 2025 guys fought for the Office of Budget Management and
Would you
Budget
say,
or whatever. They all are.
if you're to go back 50 years, and or like any time really in history other than maybe like 4 years ago, would you say that it's like more Christian or less Christian nationalist? If you compare it like basically any time, and because obviously over the past 4 years, when you compare it like, Biden being president versus Trump being president, obviously now it's more Christian nationalist. But you're saying like the country is, completely going in that direction. It's like, would you really say that, or do you think like if you look at a larger scale than 4 years, if you look at 20 years, 50 years, you think
Okay.
it's more Christian than
This is the big thing, though. Okay. So nationalism is about superiority. It's about like your country is better than others. It deserves more because we're naturally just better. So like white supremacy would be white people thinking they're better than other races. Nationalism is what white supremacy is to other races, what nationalism is to other countries. So Christian nationalism is thinking Christianity should dominate and should be the rule of the land no matter what. So you'll see a lot of fundamentalism with abortion and with like the death penalty will get really extreme,
Yep.
very similar to like what Saudi Arabia will have with their religious fundamentalists. So nationalism is inherently tied to justifying power and control with your ideology or with your nation, when like patriotism, or like you could have a patriotic Christianity, which would be like more of a Reagan, where you welcome in other cultures, welcome in other people. It's more based on liberalism. Nationalism is explicitly going to be anti-liberalism and anti-freedom, more so.
Okay, so I think a couple things I'll agree with there, certainly, like as a lot of the general points. But then when we get into the details is when we can disagree again, right? So like I think one thing you said there was like nationalism takes away freedom. I don't think that's accurate, right? Like nationalism is more about like that it's a detriment to other countries, which that can be argued whether that's good or bad. And at this point, we're just kind of like trying to find common definitions. But the point I'm trying to make is that like all countries are becoming more nationalist to some degree, because like Canada is becoming more nationalist, like Germany is becoming more nationalist, the UK is becoming more nationalist, right? And it's because like these countries have had, some things that certain people would see. I'm not saying that these are negative impacts, right? One of the things, diversity is awesome. I agree with that. That's why I think America is the best country in the world, is diversity is one of the top reasons for that, right? But a lot of these countries have seen that there are, negative effects of having cultures that are not integrating into the existing cultures of their countries. And so people are saying like we should have nationalism to try and have a more unified culture as a country, right? And I think that's what a lot of countries are going for right now. Certainly in the UK and Germany, it's like they're taking, the people there are saying like they're taking away the UK culture, they're taking away German culture. We need German nationalism or UK nationalism or whatever to try and retain the culture that existed there before. I'm not trying to argue whether that's good or bad, but
Yeah, but none of it's
like
rational though.
So you would say that trying to preserve the existing culture of a country is not rational?
100% is never rational. Whether when Hitler did it, when Stalin did it, when Mao did it, when any of them did it, it's never rational.
You can obviously list the dictators that did it, but like every country basically tries to retain their own culture, right? Like, would you say that it's good for countries to have a unique culture to themselves?
When the main political mode is nationalism, no, it's not good at all. America was founded on not having that dominant culture, actually. It's like the melting pot. Melting pots are much more liberated and free. When you become nationalist, you do lose freedoms because of that necessity. Like, you're necessary. You are like
when it
collapsing.
comes to something like that, you're thinking more of like, racial culture in a lot of ways, which I think is not where like I'm coming from when it comes to like a country's culture, right? Because the United States is has a very unique culture compared to other countries, right? And I think it's great. Like I really like U.S. culture because it is a culture of freedom. It's like the only country that has the freedom of speech in the way it does, and obviously like Trump is doing some things not so good for that right now. But like it is like far ahead on freedom of speech compared to even Canada to the north, or certainly European countries, certainly
You centrists are
China.
so cringe. It's so cringy. You can't even say bad. You have to say not so good. It's so cringe. Who do you watch on YouTube?
I mean, mostly science, if I'm honest. I'm not much of a
Okay.
politics watcher, but this came up on my feed, and I would disagree with, you know, the extremism or like the absolutism to which you were speaking.
So like, you know, okay. Some things are just bad, by the way. Some things are bad. Was slavery bad?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, good. There you go. We got a bad out of you.
Now,
I
question,
think. Okay,
do you
patriotism is
would
supporting
the
your
United
country.
States-
Like, what was that?
so like slavery was bad, but do you think the United States would have formed if they if the initial founders had said like slavery is illegal, or do you think it would be two different countries?
Would it have formed if they said it was illegal, or like if there wasn't a civil war over it?
So like before the Civil War, when like the founding fathers were deciding, because like they obviously had to make a decision on whether that was going to be allowed, right? I think that they should have made a decision to not have slavery, right? But the argument against that at the time was like, then they would have two different countries. So like, obviously slavery is bad, and I think that the country should not have been founded upon that. But, you know, anything like that, right? I still would say that the extreme opinion of there's absolutely no reason that the United States could ever have done that. I think that, you know, it's good that the United States is a unified country now, even though we had to go through a civil war.
I guess so.
Like, I think the United States is the best country because of all the ways that it has been formed.
I guess my biggest contention is so my big example would be like NATO, for example. So nationalism peaking led to World War II, 100% led to it.
Yep.
You know, FDR was a sign of American nationalism rising after the Great Depression. So, you know, different things can lead to different forms of nationalism and reasons why countries will be more nationalistic. The nationalism right now scares me because it's entirely culture driven. None of it is material. None of it's because of economic collapse. But you can argue most of them are like that. The vast majority probably are. Economic collapse makes it more susceptible to it. But right now, like Americans are pretty pampered when it comes to like human history. We live a long time. We have huge advancements. We have like America has benefited the most of any country in the past 50 years from the global arrangement. But we still will be like, we have been taken advantage of or whatever. So that really scares me because it's not intrinsically tied to struggle.
Well, an earlier point you were making is that China is now like taking over, right? And like it's, you know, it's winning this current battle that's occurring, right? So like I know that America has won certainly the past century, but do you think that there's anything that can be done to prevent China from winning the next century?
No. I think Russia and China have us captured. Russia and China won this war without firing a single bullet. We lost the Third World War.
It's already lost.
Yeah, we lost it. The fact that Trump's gonna be president until 2028, we're freaking dead. Yeah, when it comes to China, right? No, I'm just saying like factually, no one's gonna make Trump do smart policies in the next few years, and China and Russia know. All they got to do is post something about like a black transgender athlete, and Americans are gonna start crying and pissing their pants. They know it's super easy. Like it's not even hard for like their propaganda is so easy. They're playing on easy mode right now.
I agree with that, right? I think culture issues like that are certainly bad for like the idea that that's what we're focusing our politics on. But like, so you really think that there's no way that Western culture with the United States is able to win this next century? You think it's inevitable that China and their Communist Party is what takes over and is the new dominant force in the world?
I don't think it needs to. Like, do we have the ability to like prevent that, or can we fight against it? Yeah, but with the current leadership of the Republicans, it's not going to force the Democrats to be better because they don't have any competition.
We don't have to even talk about the current administration on this. I just like over the next 50 years, do you believe in the United States' ability to, you know, defeat the CCP as far as like, you know, economic power goes?
It's really hard to beat such a well-oiled dictatorship, to be honest, and they can move all their state funding around and be a command economy. It is very challenging. We have to deal with a lot of internal strife, and we still could do it. But we're off the deep end right now. So we're not going to do anything productive in the next 4 years. We're going to take a big hit. China thought they could eclipse the U.S. by 2050. I'm pretty sure that was their plan, and they're very meticulous and precise with what they do. But like what Trump's doing right now with the global trade war, a ton of countries are going to be pushed towards China quicker than they expected. And their propaganda is so good. They have such great. They were posting Ronald Reagan clips. They were posting Reagan clips the other day. It's just like, yeah, China has our number. Like as long as Americans are so willing to fight over social issues rather than coming together around class, or around just like, as patriots, if we're going to be nationalists, and culture warriors, we're going to lose. But if we can supersede that, if we can overcome that, we have a chance to win. But if these people keep waking up every day and looking at the sun, rise, and they're like, pronouns, I'm thinking about pronouns again. It's like, bro, you're making yourself mad about pronouns. If we have people who make themselves mad about pronouns, yeah, we're going to lose to China. They have kids doing surgery, bro. Like, they have kids practicing how to be doctors, like 10-year-olds. And our 10-year-olds, they want to ban libraries and books and pronouns. Like, yeah, we're cooked right now. We can still win, though.
Again, that's a bit of a contradiction. You're like, we're absolutely fucked, but we could win. Like, I think that, having confidence in the United States at this point in time is important. I don't think that any sort of Christian nationalism is the way to do that. Certainly, I'm pretty anti-religion across the board. But when it comes to like believing in the United States, I think now is the time to think like U.S. culture. If you're just comparing U.S. culture to Chinese culture, like I would much rather live in U.S. culture, right?
Oh yeah, it's a free country still. It's mostly free.
Yeah. And so, like, I think that when we talk about, this type of, and we can call it patriotism versus nationalism or whatever, but like, I think of thinking of the United States as like, this is, a culture war against the Chinese at this point, like the Chinese government, because of their, like, how they're kind of absorbing control of the world. I do think it is important that, like, if we want to maintain the freedoms and the diversity that exists here in the United States, we do have to, like, beat China and, not have a pessimistic view about that, certainly.
Well, I think it's just realistic. It's just realistic. Like if you're another country right now, or your companies, and you have capital and you're investing in a 5 to 10 year investment right now, I would probably trust China more than I would America. I actually, it's complicated, but like, as far as countries making decisions, like if you're making a plan for batteries or whatever, I don't know what it might be, but like Trump is like, I'm gonna ban green energy, I'm gonna ban it, and meanwhile China's making huge investments there, and China knows where the next wave is, and we in America, I don't know, we're just so susceptible to the propaganda. You can argue we're being authoritarian in all the ways that are the worst ways. We're cracking down on freaking speech or whatever, and we should be cracking down on big companies and making them produce stuff to make America more competitive. We're doing it all wrong. We're doing the authoritarianism wrong.
Yeah, I think we agree on that, right? But I think that the point that I think coming from that is like, we want to get to a point where the U.S. is like the competitive force to retain the next century, right? And to do that, I think that extreme measures do have to be taken within the country. I think, and I'm not saying that Trump is the person to do that. So like, I think that the idea of, these tariffs is bad in how they're being applied right now. That's the topic right now that everyone's talking about. But I do think that having some sort of extreme force, maybe probably in terms of a lot more detailed tariffs on specific things, like we need to start tariffs on, computer chips, probably things like that. And then schedule them in advance, not drop them by Trump showing up with a Bristol board saying.
That's why Biden's a million times better, right?
Again, the hyperbolic there.
So Biden's Chips and Science Act did exactly what you're saying right now. Like Biden did exactly what you're suggesting Trump do.
Biden did not take enough action. I know that he did a couple.
Biden increased our manufacturing for electronics and semiconductors and stuff by I think like 20 times what it was at.
That's no. 20 times again. The
objectively, objectively, I can literally get you the funding for these devices in America. It literally went up by like 20 times. I'm not even kidding. From what we were investing before Biden.
I'm not talking.
Are you saying we need like FDR? We need FDR, not Hitler. We need like a FDR and like industrial revolution type guy who's gonna redistribute wealth probably. Because right now the top 1% owns like 99% of wealth, like they did before the French Revolution and before the Great Depression. We need a someone who's going to wield the power in the right way, not Trump. But we do need
I
the
agree.
attitude, just not the
I agree
just
with
not the
that.
ass.
I think Trump is a terrible candidate, certainly as far as it goes. And but I think if we look back on all the past elections, there's not been like one that I've looked at and been like, I like these candidates, right? Like, do you like, are you a person who like genuinely looks at Biden and you're like, Biden is an amazing candidate. The Democrats picked the right guy.
I don't give a shit about Biden. I care about the policies they passed. That's why I say that Biden's a million times better than Trump.
Okay, so like none of your hatred towards Trump comes from his character.
I think I probably hate Elon Musk more for his character. I think Trump is too stupid for me to get mad about his like actual self. So I get mad about what he does and what effect he has on the world. But like Trump himself, he's way too stupid to get me mad.
I think that I'm kind of on part of that as well. Like, because a lot of people have said more extreme things, like Trump is going to, become a dictator and he's going to do this and that. But like, I just don't think that, like, if the battle is between democracy and Trump, like democracy is going to win, right? I'm not saying that Trump isn't trying, but like you're not competing against people can call it 4D chess, but I don't think that's what this is like.
Well, if he's gonna do this, it'll be easier. If what's happening right now is some coordinated plan to break up the economy so the wealthy can buy it again, like they do during most crashes, and like Trump wants to try to install like a Russian type oligarchy, then that could be pretty dangerous. But also, it's a really quick amount of time to try and crash the U.S. economy if he is doing that. So there is a chance he just being like a mad king, and just like he's tied to this idea. He has crazy advisors. Musk is calling people names, and like they're all internally fighting about the tariffs. So maybe
Yeah.
I was telling someone before, it might be good that Trump is doing this early, because like it would show that it's a little bit chaotic and they're moving too quick, and like they're killing our NSA, FBI, they're killing our intelligence, they're killing our international development, they're killing everything, they're killing our cybersecurity. We ended our cybersecurity versus Russia and China. Like we reduced our task force by a lot. Like we're doing a bunch of shit that seems to be pro China and pro Russia. So I just need to scale it back as much as possible, I think.
I think parts of that I would say like I have supported. Like I think that dismantling significant parts of the CIA and FBI, I think that those organizations are pretty corrupt at this point, have been for many administrations, and do probably need like a full overhaul. And also way too much.
But you're saying it again. Again, you're doing the same thing, right? You want it to be changed, but like Trump is making it worse. Like he's literally just having loyalists, and he's going after people who worked on January 6th cases.
The January 6th thing is a point that I think is, he should not have done that. But what I'm purely talking about is like dismantling of these. Yeah, January 6th is bad and should not have happened. And what Trump...
No, I just love it. It's like, yeah, I think January 6th, like he's the first president to try to overturn an election. He shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, I agree with you, right? Like
Not
we can
good.
obviously we can agree on things, but this is more of a debate, right? Yeah, it's not good. It should not have happened. I think Trump is bad for that. But like if we're talking the things we like disagree on, right? I think that dismantling significant parts of the FBI, CIA, NSA, and starting a bit more from scratch, like cutting half the workforce and saying, let's try this again, and also cutting the budget of a lot of these things, like cutting the Pentagon budget, cutting the budget of these organizations is like a good thing, because I would say that I generally don't support those organizations overall in any administration. I'd say like,
well, you saw that Trump's gonna have the first $1 trillion military budget, right?
Yeah, I don't like that. I didn't like that. Didn't like hearing that at all.
Our deficit's gonna be crazy. Our deficit's gonna be all-time records this year when we don't have a big crisis. I guarantee it. It's gonna be huge.
Well, yeah, it very likely will be unless these tariffs actually stay, in which case the American people are going to pay more tax than they
Well,
ever
then the
have
economy's
before.
going to shrink, though. So, I mean, there's a reason all the economists said that Kamala's plan was going to add like 1/5 or 1/4 of the debt Trump's would. Like they predicted the huge debt increases, and that's before the tariffs, though. So
Yeah.
it might be, yeah.
Yeah, I think that also one could say that no one knew how bad like some of this stuff under Trump was going to be, though. Like no one at the time was predicting an 104% tariff on China.
Well, yeah.
So, like,
Well, even the
it's
good.
impossible to predict what it's going to do.
But even the SMS back then said that Kamala's would add a lot less to the deficit than Trump. So even back then it was bad before all the new shit. So we have to see how this if he keep like unironically though, like if he keeps these tariffs, it's gonna make us be in like a we're talking like 10% unemployment within 2 weeks if he keeps these tariffs on at the same level. So I don't think he's gonna, because it'd be
I
so
think that
disastrous.
No, again, I think that, when 10% in 2 weeks is not accurate, right? Things do take time.
If he keeps
The
these
stock market
tariffs,
crash is
I promise it'll be. I'll give a month maybe, but if he keeps these tariffs 100% on China, 50% on like Vietnam and India, like this is actually doomsday scenario type shit. This is like these are like we're taxing our own people. These are sanctions that another country would put on us. Like if we were like North Korea. Like this is what North Korea does. Like it's
Yeah.
insane. We are isolating our economy. We're killing it. They're gonna take all the capital to Beijing and be done with us. Like this is. I don't think people understand how dire this really is if Trump keeps these freaking numbers. Like it's insane.
So that's the thing, right? Is like if the big thing there is if Trump keeps these numbers. I think that look, like the economy has obviously crashed a moderate amount, but like frankly, if you look at the tariff numbers as they are right now and you look at how much the economy has crashed, you would think like that's not that bad, because it should be much worse. And I think the reason that that's the case is because most people believe that these tariffs are not staying.
Yeah, because you pump faked it already like 10 times.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to keep happening, which is not good. But if you're talking like, 2 weeks, there's going to be this unemployment. Like, I think Trump is going to continue to just pump fake these things to try and make like weird deals under
LOL.
the table with different countries.
Probably corruption. It's a good, like, there's a reason Congress wanted taxes, or no, there's a reason the framers wanted Congress to have the power of taxation. It's because, like, the executive can use taxes for authoritarian control and to extort people. So, like, the king would do that often. That's why the Boston Tea Party happened. That's why the tea was thrown off the ship. It wasn't because of, like, taxation. It was because of taxation from the king to purposely suppress them or oppress them. And that's why they gave the power to Congress, is because of that exact issue. It wasn't representing the people. And
yeah, I think something like that I would certainly support, having taxes go through Congress. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's how the Constitution works. But Mike Johnson in Congress is giving Trump the power. They're delegating it to Trump because Trump is their daddy, and they need to suck his balls.
Well, they control Congress, like yeah, and yeah, every Republican is pretty much bowing the knee to Trump, except for like a couple
Rand
who
Paul,
are
Tillis, McConnell. There's actually like 10 Republicans who came out against Trump on the tariffs. Like Rand Paul was fact checking Trump on Fox News, which is actually like huge. Because I have not seen a Republican fact check Trump since like the second debate in 2015. So,
yeah, tariffs are definitely like Republicans are a party that generally supports lower taxes. So I'm surprised more people aren't, but at the same time, I'm not that surprised because like everybody's
I don't think they have
falling in
values.
I think so, like some of them do. Certainly the ones that are speaking out more, like Massey and Rand Paul and them. But
Yeah, well, I guess we will see. I miss Joe Biden's tariffs and his CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. I miss it. I hate it when people say like, "Oh, you must not want manufacturing in America." Well, if there is some areas, we can subsidize it or do tax credits and have a 10% tariff on these goods instead of a 104% freaking tariff on China.
yeah,
There's ways to do these things that make sense.
I think on this issue we mostly agree. Like, there are very few people that are like, genuinely like this. The current tariff plan is good. Like, tariffs are meant to be applied on specific resources, because putting a tariff on an entire country is just like the U.S. cannot produce coffee beans. Like, that's not how it works.
Well, they talk about it like they could just pick it up like it's an Amazon Prime package and just move the factory in a day. And I'm like, guys, this is a 10-year process to move this entire supply chain. Like, I don't know what kind of I don't know if they're playing Minecraft or what.
Their supply chain, and also like the reason that China's having so much success is because like the education system values manufacturing, and I think that like the U.S. education system should move back to having a much more high value add on that. And then like 10 years down the line,
another idea is, Mexico and Canada are really good partners that we should probably stop going to war with, because Mexico can do a lot more base level manufacturing. Canada's very resource rich, and we're really good at high level manufacturing. So we could make a whole, maybe like a trade agreement, like a North American free trade. Like a North American free trade, like a U.S. Mexico and Canada agreement. Like that'd be really.
I would certainly.
Yeah.
Canada and the U.S. The U.S. attacking Canada, which is like the best neighbor that any country probably ever has, is ridiculous. I do think that like Mexico is a different case, because there are a lot more companies that like are moving to Mexico. You don't really hear of like, oh yeah, Ford is moving their manufacturing out of the U.S. into Canada, right? But you do hear that about Mexico.
Yeah, but
And
the issue
so,
is like the average car supply chain has 7 stops on it, and you might have 2 in Canada, 1 in Mexico, but then there's the rest of the other 4 are in the U.S. That's what happens. Like Ford does not move their entire production to Mexico. They move like one part of the car that's cheaper to produce there, and then they do higher level manufacturing in America. So like people don't look at the context for all of this because the car's not made in one place.
Most of the manufacturing in Canada and the U.S. is end of the line manufacturing. I think
Yeah.
the majority does in other countries.
That's the most value
Like
add.
you're saying, it's
yeah.
The majority happens in other countries.
It might go from like Canada to Mexico to Canada to the U.S. Like it might go back and forth a few times before you finish a car.
Well, most of the raw resources are probably coming from Canada, and then most of the manufacturing occurs in Mexico. And then the end of the line, like coming off the sales line, that final end of the piece manufacturing is the only part that really occurs within the United States anymore.
Well, a smart country would use the free trade we currently have to get the resources we need to build up the manufacturing. We would not just like put tariffs on and say, "Oh, figure it out, guys." Like we could use the engine of global trade to, make the building of our factories faster and smarter. And we could be using the cheaper resources to make ourselves more, able to manage the changes of the global economy and tariffs or whatever. But like, there's a reason we work with other countries, and we can use Vietnam and India and other better partners than China to isolate China, which is the point of the TPP that Republicans also hated. Because I think Obama did it, but like we can do these things in a way that's very, very smart. And we also like the thing with nationalism that sucks too is the isolationism, where we're like, oh, we shouldn't have no NATO, no world organizations, we should have no supply chains, no nothing. We should all produce it. We should produce it just in America. We'll be like North Korea. We'll have wood-powered cars. That'll be awesome. But like we need these trade routes and whatever to avoid wars, to keep the globe more stable, so we can use soft power and have economic deals that benefit both countries. Like we Americans have benefit from this arrangement greatly, and it's really sad that Americans don't realize like how good we've had it, because we could make it even better for ourselves and also for other countries. We have so many resources as humans. We got really lucky with this life, and we're just throwing it away to talk about freaking pronouns every day.
I think we've reached a point where we pretty much agree on most things, and I also just saw a comment come up that we've been talking for too long and they want to talk to other people.
Oh no, I'm going to bed after this. That's why I'm still talking. I'm going to bed.
No, okay, well.
Yeah, but thank you for the call. Yeah, it's good talking to someone who's not completely gone.
Well, I think you called me completely gone a couple times in the call, but that's okay.
Oh, you are completely gone when it comes to like depth perception, but you can still see. So that's a lot. That's a big improvement.
Yeah, all right.
All right. Hope to see you around again. Call in another time. Hope to share on the channel. But thank you for calling. Have a good night.
Peace.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching. I gotta go to bed. I drove. I drove 6 hours today after work from my work trip, and I drove 6 hours on Sunday, and I am tired. Thank you for watching. Please drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for joining me. Sorry, caller. LOL. Over an hour. Carly kicked them off. Channel memberships are $3. Channel memberships are $3 a month to support independent media. Independent media. I might run for something. I don't know yet. I'm looking into it pretty heavily. But thank you guys for supporting. I wanted to hop on here, although I was driving all day today. I wanted to hop on, say hi a little bit, say hi for a little bit, to at least see you guys a little bit tonight. But yeah. Thank you for all the support. If you want to donate, the best places are Jolah Politics on PayPal, Venmo, or Cash App. Okay, the names on the screen. Jolah Politics, JOLAHPOLITICS. Jolah Politics on Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal, or on the coffee link. But again, channel memberships are $3. Late to bed. That is true. I'm tired, bro. I'm dying. U.S. is barely holding even. GDP with China. Oh, yeah. Nice. $10,000 under 25% tariff. Yeah, that's another thing. Medication. I saw Trump say that medication, pharmaceuticals cost too much in America because we import it. And his solution is force production back to America and tariffed medication. And I'm like, yeah, bro, that definitely deals with the issue with high prescription drug costs. Sure. Sure. Yeah. That'll help. That's the issue. The pharmaceutical companies, the pharmaceutical companies will actually charge a lot less if they make it in America. They'll just do it because they're nice. Like, oh, guys, I messed up. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, Case. Thank you, Case. Thank you for feel good or for good feed tonight, buddy. Thank you. Well, I can't. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. But I will stream tomorrow. LOL. Thank you, Case. Oh, you said 2 weeks ago, March 25th. Fantastic articulation with that Trump sexual. Thank you. Thank you for the catch-up donation. Thank you. Greatly appreciate it. Yeah, I'm gonna pass out. I'm not gonna lie. Like I can feel myself physically fading into the night. Like I was talking there and I was leaving my body. Like I could not feel myself. I could not feel what I was doing. I was just like going crazy. Pupils getting all dilated. You feel me? Here's the Discord link. You want to call in? Call again tomorrow. Oh wait, it doesn't. 13. Tomorrow. Yeah, call tomorrow. I'll be back on tomorrow. 9:30 Eastern time, 10 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, any mods. Thank you, Vandred. I'm late to bed. Yeah. Thank you, T. I hate not having to watch news every day. I miss not having to watch news every day. T. Yeah. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you. Oh wait, I didn't even realize I got these donations earlier. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Lynn, for $5. 100. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Jordan, for 5 gifted memberships. Thank you, Jordan. I have to tag Jordan. I don't know if Jordan's still here. Thank you. Thank you, Jordan Lynn. Thank you. Joe. Biden made insulin cheap. Trump reversed that. Yeah, it's okay. Nobody buys cars from Mexico? What do you mean? That's tough. I'm surprised the USAID is still allowed to pay this effeminate grifter. I'm gonna start working out just because of them. They actually do some. Thank you, Sri. Makes me want to go grind. Do some workout compilations of my fat ass trying to run again. I haven't ran in so long, bro. Okay, wait. Here's the Discord link if you want to join Discord and chat sometime. Time to rest. That is true. It is time to rest. Thank you for reminding me, Rita. Thank you. I was gonna not rest until you said that. I was gonna stay on here and keep talking to the screen of text that's yelling at me. Isn't it crazy that I get to see a couple hundred people calling me the most disgusting things you could call another person? Isn't that so good for my mental health? Ain't that so good for my mental health? Ain't that so cool? I know it's so cool. Thank you. Thank you for supplying it, guys. Thank you for the amazing comments all stream. Love it. All right. Let's do 10 p.m. 10 p.m. tomorrow. 10 p.m. Eastern time. Sleepy time. Thank you, guys. Have a good night. They never have a real argument. Yeah, they don't want to have real arguments. Then they have to think too hard. No, it's God. Did you see Fox News today? Fox News talked about trans pool players all day. Trans players playing pool against each other. Trans pool players, like table pool, whatever. 2 men competed. That was Fox News all day today, bro. They can literally bring up pronouns for anything, and Fox News viewers will just stop paying attention. Brain will shut off. I joined. Nice. Great. Yeah, there's some text chats in there. It really depends what's going on. I don't know. Just people talking in the chat right now, if you guys want to hop in there. 6 people talking in Discord. All right, guys, have a good night. See you guys tomorrow, 10 p.m. See you. Yeah, 10 p.m. Sure. MAGA trans fetish. They really do talk about pronouns constantly. The school board. One other story, quick. The school board was talking, and they pretty much said they're talking about banning books. You know, not one book, not two book. You know how they ban like 100 books or 200 books or a bunch of books that make them upset about like anything? They get offended. They suggested that they just remove the entire library. It's like, yeah, bro, in China, kids are learning how to sew wounds shut when they're like 10. In America, we're crying about pronouns. Like, how do you think we need to pamper our kids? You want our kids to hide from just like basic conversations? Like, you want our 14-year-olds in the meat packing plants. You want these 14-year-olds in the meat packing plants working full child labor overnight, but they can't handle conversations about words that offend you, you dumbass adults. All right, have a good night, guys. Oh, thank you for $5. MAGA sucks. Good night, trolls. Thank you, M. Thank you, M, for $5. You helped me. What does players having to be trans? I also don't know what kind of... Is there a huge benefit you get based on gender in pool? I feel like that's one sport where you're like, hey, I don't know, bro. Does bone density matter in pool, bro? Oh, man, I don't even know. All right, guys, have a good night for the final time. See you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. See you. Thank you for the donations, guys. Thank you for the support, guys. Let me check my phone quick before I go bed so I make sure I didn't miss anyone. Okay, 1 second. I'm looking now. Okay, checking Venmo. Sri, thank you again for earlier. Checking PayPal. Nothing on PayPal tonight. And Cash App. Thank you guys on Cash App as well. Casey and Rita, thank you. All right, guys, have a good night. Both sides do bad things. All right, see you guys. See you. Gay Chanel. Oh, you're Gay Chanel. Are you a model for Chanel? What brand is it? What brand is that, bro? You're the gay model. Yeah, be gay or be nothing. True. All right, see you guys.